Now that I've found the tonic note, the key, and the mode of a song, what chords are available to pick from and then match up with a melody? There are specific chords that exist in major and minor keys. By way of example, let's go back to the melody Amazing Grace. It's in the key of C major. So let's look at the key of C major. It's got 7 different notes. 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you're back to C at the top. Let's ignore all of the other notes on the piano, except for these 7 notes. Now it's kind of convenient because the key of C has all the white notes. Okay, so we're just going to look at the white notes. We're going to ignore everything else. Now, starting on C, build a triad on each one of these notes and see what you get. Starting on C, we'll build a triad. You get a major triad, C major. How about starting on D? Using just the notes of the C major scale, that's a minor triad. So the 2 chord in the scale of C is a minor triad. Let's go to the 3rd note of C major. That's a minor triad, E minor. So the 3 chord in C. Because this is just a quick overview of the full lesson, let's go ahead and move further along. One of these 7 notes. The simple answer is that if you know what chords exist in any major or minor key, we're going to look at minor keys in a second, you'll really narrow down the chords that you have to pick from when you're wondering what chords go with any particular melody. It's that important. You won't have 200 chords to pick from, you'll just have 7. So that's technique number 1, which is called 7 available chords in the key. Aren't you glad you're not guessing from all the hundreds of available chords on the keyboard? So even by just knowing the 7 available chords in any key, you're way ahead in the game. But I'm sure you've seen a piano player before who can instantly take any melody and put chords underneath it without having to wonder, okay, is it going to be the 1 chord or the 2 chord or the 3 chord? That would never work in a live situation, would it? The audience would just take a hike. So let's refine this method so that it becomes quicker. Let's go on. Technique number 3. This is called clues from the melody. So far, we know which 7 chords belong to the key and the mode of the song, whether it's major or minor. In addition, we know which 3 chords show up most commonly. Now we're going to fire up the left half of your brain, the analytical side, and start doing some analyzing to really help us nail down which chords go with the melody. First, we've got to talk about rhythm and the concept of strong versus weak pulses in music. As you probably know, for songs that have 4 beats in each measure, beat number 1 is the strongest of all the pulses. That's Superman, beat number 1. The next strongest pulse is number 3. So he's like Spider-Man maybe, okay? Superman is 1, Spider-Man is 3. They're both strong. Beats number 2 and 4 are considered weaker pulses. So they're like the Joker. Okay, beats number 2 and 4. Measure 14, another musical gem from heaven. We're going to learn how to swap chord tones and non-chord tones during boring sections to really liven things up. Let's check it out. Remember how I said earlier in the lesson that on strong beats you usually have chord tones. But let's look at measure 14. The predominant note there is an E, and then it goes to a D on the 3rd beat. Now we could just put a C major chord underneath there, and that would sound okay. But the problem is, in measure 13 you also have a C major chord. In measure 15 you also have a C major chord. In measure 16 you have a C major chord. Well, that's no fun. So let's do a little creative accounting. Let's say in measure 14, let's call the E now a passing tone, and let's call the D. Well, we've gone through a lot of material in this piano lesson. We started out by finding out which was the most significant note or the tonic note of the melody that you were playing. Then we went to find the mode that melody was in, whether it was major or minor. Then you found out that once you had the tonic note as well as the mode, that gave you the key that the melody was in. Then once we nailed down the key that the melody was in, we came up with the 7 chords that you can pick from as you're playing a melody in a certain key. That was real helpful as we started to guess which one of those chords would go with any point in the melody. But then we narrowed it down even further, and we found out about the primary chords. This has just been a quick overview of the full 1-hour lesson.